afternoon. Sorry for the delay. My name is Widya, and I'm going to be your moderator for this session. We are sorry for the delay because of some technical issues, but we are ready to start now. Welcome to this session of Winner. In this session, we are going to talk about the factors influencing the sustainability of water, sanitation, and hygiene services, mainly in the rural areas in Indonesia. Are we on track in achieving universal access to clean water and sanitation by 2030? Just before we start, I'm going to show you this quick data from WHO UNICEF Joint Monitoring Program about the access to improved drinking water and sanitation in Indonesia from 2000 until 2017. From this data, we can see that there is a difference between urban and rural. So that is why in this session, we will focus on the rural, because we can see that the rural areas have lower achievement than the national and urban. And we do not have data on safely managed drinking water and sanitation yet. We only have data about the improved drinking water and sanitation. We are going to talk about FIETS sustainability approach, which is the factors that can influence the sustainability of water services. And it includes the financial, institutional, environmental, and technological and social sustainability. Our speakers will talk and explain a bit more about their experience in these 5 sustainability approach. These are our 6 wonderful speakers for today. I will briefly read their profile before each of their talk. Before we start, please kindly mute yourself if the speaker are presenting to avoid background noises, and you can send your questions using the chat box or by raising your hand, and we will get back to you later. The first speaker is Edi Setiadi Sujono. He is the head of Research Center of Water and Sanitation in Tropical Area or SWASTA in the Department of Environmental Engineering and in ITS Surabaya. His research is mainly dealing with domestic wastewater using appropriate technology for low-income communities. I'm welcoming Pak Edi to join us. Pak Edi, the floor is yours.
Mbak Wid, are you talking to me, Mbak Widya?
Yes.
Because I couldn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this my session now? Because I just your voice is just a bit here and there.
Oh, yes, it's your session now.
Okay. Because my timing is so short, I just want to make this one in very brief and very short. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Edi from Surabaya. I'm still in the car at the moment on the way back home from Magetan to Surabaya. So I'm sorry, I'm just using this head and still in my car. And I hope the signal is quite good because I'm using my handphone to contact all of you from somewhere in the road area in Surabaya, in Jawa. So I would like to tell you, maybe although most of you are Indonesian, but we are now having about 270 million people in Indonesia, and 20% of those people, according to Bappenas 2019, we are still practicing open defecation. We are still practicing open defecation everywhere, yeah? Okay. Mbak Widya, could you please continue the next screen? Next slide, please. Okay, I don't want to talk directly about the technology because we are having a kind of like mindset. If we are talking about a toilet, it is a very sad because most of the Indonesian people will say that if they would like to go to the toilet, they will say like, I'm going to the backyard, to the back of my house. Yeah, in bahasa Indonesia we call it ke belakang. Or even a small room, even I don't know how to say it in English, but it is ke belakang and ke kamar kecil means a very place not very nice to urinate or to defecate. Just like in my slide. Next, please. And then in 19th of November, it was World Toilet Day. And then we would like to say, because many times Indonesian people, they don't have a very firm terminology in Bahasa how to say toilet. Sometimes they even they call it a kekhuis. Yeah, kekhuis is in auf Deutsch in Dutch. It is not Indonesian. So I mean, even in Bahasa Indonesia, we are still confused how to say toilet, how to go to say ke belakang. I mean, there are so many things that I hope from now on, because of this session, we would like to declare, probably that's the word, to say jamban. Yeah. Okay, carry on, please. And then, according to the regulation of the Ministry of Public Works, number 4 to 2017, and then it is already said that we are going to provide sanitation for the Indonesian people through on-site sanitation system or off-site sanitation system. And then, according to the abbreviation in the regulation, it is called SPAL DS and SPAL DT. I'm using a pronunciation in Bahasa Indonesia, yeah. Carry on, please. This is Mbak Wit, you could push another slide, please. Give all the picture on the slide. So there is a red color, a blue color, and yeah, okay, that's it. And then this is the practice of Indonesian people, mostly if they are having a very proper toilet, a proper toilet, yeah. And then in many houses, just like this. So the black water, it is going to the septic tank, and then the kitchen, bathing and washing, they are going to the open ditch. I mean, this is not a very proper way if you're talking about off-site sanitation system. But I think only 2% of the Indonesian people, they are practicing to have the sewer system. And then the rest of them, it is not a proper toilet with not a very good maintenance in dislodging of the sludge. Okay, next, please. And this is typical, the water from the kitchen, from bathing, from washing, and from the toilet. It is going to the septic tank. Next, please. So this is a very and then I know, because you're all Indonesian, please you push another one more, Mbak Widya. So this is just to say, probably it is quite common for you that this is the typical, maybe you are not using the squatting toilet any longer because you are using the sitting toilet. But if you are talking about on-site sanitation system in general in Indonesia, they are probably is going to use squatting toilet, just like this one. And then the way they put the water is a very good thing to discuss. Some people, they put it on the left side, some people they put it on the right side, some people use it a fixed thing, sometimes it is. So I mean, to empower the community to have a proper toilet is not a very simple way, basically. Next one, please. Yes, I mean, can I hope it is. Yes, this is the simple. So basically, we have a very good, a proper way to construct our septic tank with the dimension, and it must be dislodged according to the regulation of the Ministry of Public Works, supposed to be one in 3 years time. Yeah, I'm not talking yet about the where to dislodge, but this is basically, I mean, the common practice for the Indonesian people, what type of technology they are going to use for urinating or dislodging, just simply to go to the toilet. Next one, please. I mean, okay. So typical house connection, if you are talking about the sewer system, just simply just like this. So it is not a septic tank any longer on the left side, but it is going to be pipe system. But we don't have so much this type of sewer system in Indonesia. Yeah, probably Denpasar is the best, but so far it is, why it is the best, because it is probably supported by a lot of support from the central government. But in other places, many times this sewer system is not function properly. Next one, please. So there's the offsite. And then this is the technology I would like, because some of the sewer system in Indonesia, it is also run by the community, which is, according to myself, it is not very good, because they don't have a proper laboratory, they don't have a very good human resource. But well, this is probably the next step to have a very beautiful service of black water and gray water system in Indonesia. Next one, please. Sorry, I'm just to be a bit in a hurry because I mean time is so short. Next one, but Vidya, because this is mostly they are using anaerobic baffled reactor system. Because if it is the technology is beyond this one, it will be very expensive, and the budget from the central government is not that much. Okay, carry on, Mbak. So this is probably the end of my slide. And if you're talking technologically in Indonesia, and this is all the type of technology which is available, it could be from the on-site sanitation system on the top, and then the bottom one is the off-site sanitation system. And then, of course, we are hoping that one day most of the area in Indonesia to be sewered, but at the moment, is just simply from the septic tank. And then it is not a very simple way to ask community, to ask an individual to have septic tank, a proper septic tank in their house. But I think I just would like to conclude, in the near future, I think the most technology, which is the most appropriate technology that can be implemented in Indonesia is, I would say, it is just still a septic tank, and it could be communal septic tank. Okay, Mbak Wid, I mean, will I still have another slide? I think this is my last slide. Okay, so I would like to give this session back to Mbak Vidya. Thank you, Mbak Vidya.
Thank you, Mr. Eddie, for your presentation. We are going to continue to the next presentation by Lieselotte Hiederik. She is a founder of Nazava, a private company based in Bandung, Indonesia. They have developed and promoted the use of water filter for households since 2009. Nazava has won some prestigious awards, including the National Energy Globe Award for Indonesia in 2017. Lieselotte, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Vidya. So hello everyone, welcome to this session. I will especially talk about how we at Nazava have tackled financial and institutional challenges to make wash services in rural areas more sustainable. Next, please. So our mission is to provide safe, affordable drinking water to the 4.4 billion people worldwide that do not have access to treated water in their house. And therefore, we were perfectly aligned with SDG number 6. So we have developed a product where households can purify their well, tap, or rainwater without the need to boil or use electricity. The product you see here on this picture only costs $30, which equals like $1 per month. The purified water meets the requirements of the Indonesian standards for drinking water, and we are certified by the WHO for bacteria removal. And this is the element we use. This is the filter can we use. It's made in Indonesia. So with Nazava, we have reached nearly 450,000 people that now have access to safe drinking water in their house. And by using Nazava, they can also save over $100 per year, as they do not need to buy or boil their water. And by replacing the need for boiling water, we also reduce the CO2 emissions, for which we generate carbon credits. And with these carbon credits, we can fund like marketing activities in rural areas, which are generally more expensive because of all the logistics involved. Next. So what have we learned in Nazava regarding financial sustainability? When we started Nazava in 2009, we wanted to make a product that was affordable as possible. So we used off-the-shelf buckets that were really cheap, which we used for our filter housing. But when we had those products in our showroom, we noted that our customers, which are mostly women, were much more interested in the fancier looking products, but those were more expensive. And we realized that with the scarce sources that those women in rural areas have, actually they want to have something beautiful and something good looking. They want to have something that makes them proud and that gives them some human dignity. So therefore, we partnered with Delft University and students from industrial design, and they helped us develop the product that you saw in the previous slide. And that product is called the Riam. But actually, this product is twice as expensive, but it is much more attractive. And with this product, actually, our demand doubled, and the water filter became much easier to sell. We needed to have less explanation about the importance of safe drinking water. But of course, the challenge remained on how we could ensure the affordability of this product, because it now costs like $30, whereas this previous product was $15. So therefore, we teamed up with microfinance institutes with whom we can reach out to those low-income rural households. And the members of these microfinance institutes, they can now purchase our product by paying in installments. So instead of getting a loan, the member of the microfinance institutes purchase a water filter, which they then pay back over a period of approximately 6 months. So far, we have partnered with over 6 big MFIs in Indonesia, mostly targeting the rural areas. And having an attractive product that customers are willing to pay for and partnering with microfinance institutes at the same time has allowed us to reach more families with access to safe drinking water. So I think partnerships are key in reaching financial sustainability. And therefore, I look at financial sustainability as our organization, but also for the end user. So next slide. Yeah, so this was the picture with the MFIs with which we work. Yeah, so then we go, yeah, this is the correct slide. So how can we reach institutional sustainability in the wash sector? Vidya, yeah, that slide. Yeah. So our lessons learned. Vidya, can you stay to the white slide?
The white slide, yeah.
Number 2, institutional sustainability, yeah. So how can we reach institutional sustainability in the wash sector? Our lessons learned are that with partnerships, more sustainability can be achieved. But the challenge that we experience since we established NASAFA is when we try to establish partnerships with NGOs and government institutes in the wash sector, is that actually most funds for the wash sector are allocated to water utilities. But in Indonesia, people with a water connection generally belong to the upper and the middle class. The wash funds are poorly targeted to the rich. According to the World Bank, even worldwide, 56% of subsidies for wash are captured by the wealthiest 20% of the population, and only 6% are captured by the poorest 20%. Next slide, please. And in Indonesia, this is not much different. The WHO class report from 2017 showed that total wash expenditures in Indonesia were nearly $770 million. Of these funds, 77% was allocated to drinking water services, or the water utilities. But the Joint Monitoring Program for Water Supply and Sanitation by the WHO and UNICEF state that just over 18%, 1/8, of the total population of Indonesia benefits from these services. Next slide, please. And another very interesting study that was published last year by the University of Technology in Sydney shows actually that 90% of the urban population of Indonesia and 90% of the rural population of Indonesia use groundwater as their primary source of drinking water. Realizing that there's sewage systems which are poorly developed, basically you can conclude that still most people have access to contaminated water in their house. So next slide. So what can we do to reach SDG 6, access to safe drinking water, when money is allocated to services that are not being used? I think there's a big opportunity for establishing more partnerships with schools, community health centers, as well as NGOs to ensure that all those people using groundwater in Indonesia can have a free flow of safe drinking water in their house. Thank you very much for attending this seminar, and I look forward to reaching out with you afterwards. Thank you, Widya.
Thank you for your presentation, Lisa. I want to remind you once more, if you have any question, just put it in the chat and we will get back to you later. Now, the next presentation is by Angelina Yusridar Mustafa. She is a part of SIMAVI in Indonesia. She is also responsible for sustainable sanitation and hygiene in Eastern Indonesia, or called Sehati program, which helps the local government to implement the community-led total sanitation in the eastern part of Indonesia. Angelina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Widya. I hope you can hear my voice clearly. There is still a cultural ceremony here in Bali because currently I'm living in Bali. So good afternoon, everyone, or good morning for those who are currently living in Europe. As said by Pak Edi previously in his presentation, that ensuring rural people to defecate in the toilet or having septic tank in their house is not an easy way. Therefore, SIMAVI works on behavior change on our so-called Sehati program. Please, next slide, I think. Yeah. No, yeah. No, yeah. On the map, yeah. So our program was implemented in 2016 to 2020, just finished last August, and it was a continuation of previous program called SHOW program, which was implemented since 2010. In Sehati, we work in 215 villages of 51 sub-district in 7 districts of NTB, NTT, and Papua, as you can see in the map. Our program focus was on WASH program, WASH governance elements, which is to equip the local government to lead and steer the implementation of service delivery elements. Just to confirm, I think you already know, WASH governance consists of leadership and commitment, financing, strategic plan and monitoring, and supportive legislation and enforcement, while service delivery elements consist of demand creation, sanitation marketing, hygiene promotion, monitoring and follow-up, and proper financing. Next slide, Mbak. Yeah, this was our TOC, or what we called with Sehati approach. We were putting sustainability elements since the beginning of the program by making sure the local authorities are committed and are in the lead to implement WASH program. We were using STBM, Sanitasi Total Berbasis Masyarakat in Bahasa Indonesia, or some kind of community-led total sanitation, but STBM is more comprehensive as it is integrated with drinking water and food storage management, as well as solid and liquid waste management at household level. SIMAVI was working with 5 local implementing partners in a consortium, and these implementing partners are the catalyzer who directly supported the district government, we call it enabler, who have in turn trained sub-district, then they trained the village authorities as a driver to implement STBM in the villages to promote and sustain healthy behavior and practices. At the same time, program partners promoted the sanitation, healthy behavior and practice. Sanitation, at the same time, the program partners promoted the sanitation supply chains by supporting and strengthen sanitation entrepreneurs as a suppliers to ensure reliable and affordable access to sanitation and hygiene related product and services. Next. Here are the result of our intervention. As you can see, I will not present one by one, but focus on the 3 aspects because we found that the most influencing aspect are financial, institutional, and social. You can see in the picture at the bottom, we are not only, the program are not only depend on Sehati budget, but also we can advocate the local government to allocate budget to implement and replicate our approach in the whole district. For example, like from local government, we calculated that there are 160 billion rupiah from the government at all level, from district to village level, or around 9.6 million euro. While demand creation at the community level also part of our intervention, it resulted the contribution from communities, we calculated around 40 billion rupiah, or around 2.4 million euro, if I'm not mistaken. While from institutional aspect, we already have trained 4,542 people to implement, monitor, promote STBM at all level from district, sub-district, and village level until community level. Next slide for better understanding, Mbak Widya. Like this is the WAS governance and service delivery element picture. I will focus on the financial aspect. So we advocated government to allocate budget from different sources, namely at district level, for example, they have IPBD. IPBD is annual budget at district level, and IDD. IDD, it is allocation from district to village government, and BOK. BOK is Health Operational Fund managed by district health office and primary health care. So we advocated them to allocate budget for STBM implementation from those budget sources. At sub-district level, because they don't have budget, we directly advocated village government to allocate budget from their village fund. Village fund is a decentralized budget from national directly to the village government. We also collaborated with private sector, CSR, and local sanitation entrepreneur as well to work directly with the village level to improve facilities in their respective areas. So when we talk about private sectors, it doesn't mean the big companies, but also local entrepreneurs. We also have MOU with NASAFA during SHOW program, but then NASAFA continue with our local implementing partner, Plan Indonesia. Maybe Lisa can explain more if there is any question. And then regarding the institutional aspect, as I mentioned before, we collaborated and strengthened the capacity of local government at district, sub-district, and village level by establishing what we call with STBM team, or strengthen the existing team, which is normally in district level. They have POPJA IMPL, or Drinking Water and Environmental Health Working Group, consists of several departments who work with water and sanitation and hygiene issue. The capacity building consisted of training, coaching, on-the-job training, monitoring, coordination, and evaluation. On top of that, we have to ensure the commitment of head of the district first before we implement the program, because this was very important to have the commitment so that the lower level or lower departments can enforce and follow the commitment. We had MOU as the result of this commitment. At the social aspect, during demand creation and hygiene promotion, we collaborate with village leaders, cultural leaders, religious leaders, teachers, and other significant or important person in the village. Usually, community will follow these figures. So that's why it is very important to engage with them. We also advocated village government to issue what we call with STBM related regulation, like Perdes in Bahasa Indonesia, Peraturan Desa, so that community can have guidelines on how to implement STBM in their house, as well as they will get reward or punishment if they don't follow the rules. However, during 4.5 years implementation, we also found that technical aspect play a significant role when delivering waste services in rural areas, in particular in the area with limited access to water, for example, or no wastewater treatment plant, or even in a coastal community. So we have to adjust or invent a proper toilet that is suitable for those areas. Hence, working with local sanitation entrepreneurs were essential too. Next, Mbak. Yeah, every intervention always comes with challenges. In Sahati, we found two biggest challenges, which are synchronization of the program with national and provincial government program, because mostly they are different. They have different priority. Yeah, the district have different priority compared with provincial and national. So decentralization era gives more authority for district government to manage their budget and plan, but there are some programs coming from national and provincial to lower level. Sometimes the national government, they have program directly to village level. And the things is that the distribution of the information or coordination about their programs sometimes did not go well. The second thing is about political interest at district and village level due to the district and village election. It affected the staff rotation at government offices, for example. So we need to reconduct the capacity building with new appointed staff. And in the worst case, sometimes the commitment of previous head of district did not realize during the administration of the new head of districts, which affected the budget allocation plan, the budget allocation, the plan, as well as the team members itself. Therefore, we are still wondering if the government will continue our approach to every village to achieve SDG 6.2 by 2030 or not. So thank you. I think that is the last slide for me. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Angelina. I see some questions already in the chat. We will give answer to your question also in the chat box, and if we have time later on, we will also discuss it in real life. I mean, in the Q&A session. Now we are going to the next presentation, which is by Danang from Royal Haskoning, Indonesia. I will read the short profile of Danang. He is a Deputy Team Leader of Urban Sanitation Development Program, or USDP, part of Royal Haskoning DHV, which is funded by the Embassy of Kingdom of the Netherlands. He has more than 15 years of experience in the water and sanitation sector in Indonesia. Danang, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Vidya. Hello, everyone. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes.
Yes, I'm struggling with the lights at the moment because now it's already 5 o'clock. I think it's already almost 5 o'clock. Yes, next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. This is my presentation. It is based on the works that have been done in the Urban Sanitation Development Program, as already mentioned by Vidya. It is part of the Netherlands government-funded programs, technical assistance to support national sanitation program in Indonesia. And then if we are talking about sanitation in Indonesia, and then we refer to domestic wastewater, household solid waste management, and also urban drainage. I think Pak knows very well about this. And this presentation only discuss about domestic wastewater management. And one of the limitation that I hope still relevant is USDP is not designed as a rural specific program. So it is actually a program with an objective to let's say streamline policy at the local level, provincial level, and central levels on sanitation. And before that, I would like to also to express my gratitude to all USDP team members, the Netherlands Embassy in Jakarta, and also all counterpart ministries as part of the PPSP program. Please continue with the next slide. Yeah. Before that, I would like to take a look in the history of 1970 until 2000. Government spending on sanitation is about $2 US per person per year. And then based on the latest Indonesia statistic, we have jumped to 80% access in urban areas for sanitation access, and 72% in rural areas. As we can see in these graphs, we can also see interesting things that the rate of increase in rural area is a bit higher compared to rates of increase in urban areas. Next slide, please. Yeah. Sustainable sanitation services that we called in our project and in our program is the main or the central theme of Indonesia Midterm Development Plan 2020 and 2024. And it is implemented through a national program on sanitation, namely Accelerated Sanitation Development and Human Settlement Program, or in Bahasa Indonesia, we call it PPSP, and regulated under Presidential Regulation 18/2020. The PPSP is translated into 5 strategic policies: institutional capacity improvement, commitment from local government leaders, infrastructure development based on the local needs and characteristics, behavioral change for safely managed sanitation, and the last is development of funding and cooperation mechanism. Next. Yeah, since we are working for 9 provinces and 62 districts and cities, I would like also to take closer look into one of our project locations in Karanganyar District, located in Central Java Province. Administrative area of the district is 800 square kilometers. Total population approximately 885 persons, 45% live in rural areas. But if we are talking about the administrative government setting, we have much more rural village or desa, 162 than urban village or kelurahan in bahasa Indonesia, which is only 15. Sanitation access, 93% improve and 7% basic sanitation in 2017, and they declared their open defecation free status at the district level also in 2017. And they are not stopping there. They are now stepping into the next ladder of safely managed sanitation through implementation of the regular dislodging program. Karanganyar is one of our project location. They receive our facilitation since 2016 until 2019 because we are stopped with the USDP in September 2020. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, this is the main lesson learned, especially from Karanganyar, but also I combine it with other locations and try to link between financial institutional and technical aspects. From financial aspect, we believe that the strong commitment from head of district will play a significant role, or very important role, especially on how to create financial support, especially from the local government budget. And in Karanganyar, for example, the head of district also committed very strong with the policy to financially support the poor, and they use village fund as the primary financing source, which trigger also other financing source. For example, corporate social responsibility, central government budget, provincial government budget, and also from the religious funds. And since we are talking about sanitation, which normally, of course, a long-term project, multi-year project, we need to institutionalize the commitment. And in Karanganyar, after many discussion with the local governments, they decided to let's say formalizing the commitment through a head of district regulations, and also in the regulations they set the tangible targets, clear monitoring and evaluation mechanism, and also how they go with the phased implementation from basic sanitation to improved sanitation and later to safely managed sanitation. And during the formalization of this policy, input from technical aspect is really played a crucial role because they consider a lot. Technical input includes the use of appropriate technology, easiness of operation and maintenance, and this is also important, total expenditure, not only CapEx investment, but also operation and maintenance costs. We also provided the technical option for the phase implementation to drive continuous development and sustainability, which also part of the policy formulation. Next. And this approach is already adapted as national approach under the PPSP program. So we together with the PMU and PIU's, PPSP has already prepared a guideline for the development of sustainable sanitation services. It contains 3 important milestones: attaining local government commitments, and then preparing multi-aspect strategy, and the last is prioritization and also implementing a pilot programs. And we also learned that public engagement is really important to increase the effectiveness of the policy implementation. And then we also believe in the synergy and collaboration of the sanitation development between especially central governments, provincial governments, and also local governments. And this is also important to note that we are also believe in collaborative works. So we are together with the governments developing an online collaborative platform under nawasis.org. We provide platform for knowledge sharing, platform for capacity building and training, and also platform for monitoring and evaluation. Next, please. Yes, and despite of all of the good lessons, we still, of course, have many challenges. One the example is how to sustain commitment from local leaders. I think Angelina mentioned it already with the case of local elections. For example, how we can sustain commitment from the newly elected political leaders. That's also the challenge that we are facing now. And then sustainability in the absence of external facilitator, because this project is receive very intensive facilitation from our programs. So it is also a challenge to see once we are stopped with providing support to local governments, how can they sustain with this initiative? And this is also related to how can local government ensure to receive continuous support from provincial and central governments. And then the last thing is about when we are dealing with more non-private system, of course, we need to consider financial sustainability from tariff, since based on our experience, the existing tariff cannot cover at least the operation and maintenance costs. I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you, Widya.
Yeah, thank you, Danang, for your presentation. We still have two more speakers, and I see that the clock is ticking, but because of some technical problem in the beginning, it is approximated that the session will last until 11:15 for the Netherlands time, or until 5:15 for Indonesia time. So if you need to run to the next session, to the other session, you can leave this room, or of course you are more than welcome to stay with us. We are going to move to the next speaker by Daniel. He is a PhD candidate in the Department of Water Management at Delft University of Technology. He will explain about the social environmental aspect of water, sanitation, and hygiene services in rural Indonesia. Daniel?
Yep.
It's the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Widya, for the time. I want to share briefly about my research, my PhD research that I conducted in rural Indonesia. But for this session, I just want to focus on social and environmental aspect. But actually, I cover many things also in FIETS aspect, like the financial and environmental and the technical aspect. But for this session, I just want to talk about social and environmental aspect. If you want to know more about the research, you can contact me by email, or you can find my information in the Google, and you can check for my paper in the Google. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I did water study field work in two locations in Indonesia. The first one in Palu, Central Sulawesi, and the second one is Sumba, Nusa Tenggara. And I did the field work in 2018 until 2019. We are still analyzing the data, but yeah, let's say we almost end of the data analysis. As I mentioned already, that the research cover quite broad topics. The first one is about the behavioral aspect of household water treatment. And the second one is drinking water quality and risk analysis, hygiene behavior, and so on. And the last part is about the sustainability of water services. So actually, I can share a lot of topics from my research, but now I just want to focus on social and environmental aspects. Next slide, please. Yeah, we can talk about a lot of things about social, but I think the key issue of social issue in water is that how can we change people behavior? Because at the end, let's say we can develop a good technology, we can tell them to use toilet, we can tell them, we can introduce them the water filtrations, but if they don't use it, they are useless. So at the end, we need people to change the behavior. So the key questions in social aspect, I think, is that what are the critical psychological factors that influence the behavior? Because according to the psychological theory, the human behavior is influenced by the mindset or the perception of the people or the psychological aspect and so on. And we need to know what are the critical factors, and then we can target those critical psychological factors in the behavioral change intervention. Next slide, please. Yeah, I don't want to go into detail to the results, but the key point that I want to share today is that when I compare my study in Palu and Sumba, I found that the critical psychological factors is context specific, meaning that we cannot we cannot apply the same approach to all locations. So we really need a behavioral study before we design behavioral change intervention, not before we implement the intervention, but before we design the WAS project, the WAS program. We need behavioral study. We need to understand what is the critical psychological factors, and we need to take into account also the local culture. Because, for example, I went to rural area in Sumba, and local culture really play a critical role there. And we need somehow to integrate the WAS intervention with the local culture. And as mentioned I think by Angelina, that the village head and cultural leader, they are critical stakeholders. So we need to involve them in all WAS intervention in rural Indonesia. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, we can talk a lot of things about environmental, but I just want to focus on Sumba for now. You can see from this picture, top right, and you can see the locations in typical rural area in Sumba. You can see there, the location is hilly, and the houses is quite scattered to each other, and you can see also the rock, the limestone there, so there are a lot of environmental challenges that people face in this area. They have a low frequency and quantity of rainfall, and the soil structure is very hard, so it's very difficult for them, for example, to dig a latrine, to make a toilet, and because the house is scattered, it's difficult to make a pipe system that can reach all the households. So and also I found that in my study that easy access to water influence the ability to treat the drinking water and use toilet regularly, meaning that access to water is very critical. Because let's use this case of Sumba, they face a lot of water problems, but we tell them to use toilet. Of course, they cannot use that. We tell them to treat the drinking water. Of course, they cannot do that because they have no water. So the highlight that I want to share today is that the local government and the national government, they really need to put special focus on this kind of area, because without access to water, they cannot use the toilet regularly, they cannot treat the water, they cannot wash their hands regularly. So the local government kind of give a special focus. So we cannot really just tell all the location in Indonesia, they have to build a toilet, they have to use it, but we need to consider environmental aspect, the water supply in the first, before we tell them to do water-related behavior. I think that's all from me, Widya. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Daniel. We will go next to the final, our last speakers for today. It's Dennis Johan. He will explain about WAS as a complex system. Dennis is an environmental engineering master student from TU Delft, and now he's working on socio-hydrological model about improvement of water in India. Dennis, are you there?
All right.
Thank you,
Widya.
Yours.
Yes, I hope you guys can hear me. Otherwise, you can tell me in chat or something. Okay, so I'll just get straight into it because we didn't have a lot of time. So throughout this the session, we've been looking at the different factors on how they affect the WAS practices. Like for example, Paidi talked about the social, like the culture, like about the saying ke belakang, and also the technology aspect of it. Lisalote from Nasafa also talk about the financial aspects of it. Angelina talks about the institution, about the government, finances, also to some extent the social, and But I know from Royal Haskoning also talks a lot of factors in FIETS, for example. It covers like the technology, institution, the social or the behavioral changes, the financial, and like the commitment from the local governments, for example. And Daniel also mentioned a little bit about the social and the environmental aspect of factors that is affecting the SWOT conditions. So I would like to tie in all of that in on how they interact with each other, like these different factors interact with each other within the system. I will not talk about like the solutions or anything, because I think the previous speakers have done a good job about it. But this is more to introduce the mindset that we need to have when looking at this type of systems, that they're interconnected and complex. So the input data, past few weeks, we have sent questionnaires to WASH experts to fill in. And in this questionnaire, we asked them to fill in how strong each factor affects the WASH and the other factors, and the polarity of their influence. You can see the composite result here at the bottom of the slide in the cross impact matrix call. We just averaged like all the data we got from this WASH experts. As you can see, that the polarity of all these factors are all positive. And every factor here, they have some influence to some extent to all the other factors. There's no like zero influence strength connection there. When we combine all these factors, like individually, you can see like some connections are stronger, like 3 is stronger connection, and 1 is the weaker connection. You can sort of see like when you add all of these up, we can see how this overall within the system, how each factor affects the other factors. Like for example, at the bottom there in the dependence row, we can see that WASH has the highest dependence of all the factors. And for the influence, we have 3 factors that are sort of like most influential, which is the institutional, social, and the WASH. To see what this number represent, we can go to the next slide. We put these factors. Avidia, can you go to the next slide, please?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Again, to see what these numbers actually mean, we put these factors onto an influence map. You can see in quadrant 1, this is where all the factors that are both influential and dependent, and at the same time dependent from the other factors. So the characteristics here, while they are influential here, they are unstable and they're not permanent in their effect. Like for example, WASH, social, and technology. Financial is a bit on the fence there, and we'll get back to that. So these factors, while they can affect the WASH practices quite significantly, but they are also really dependent on the other factors. And then you see that the second quadrant, this is the factors that are highly influential, however, not as dependent on these other factors. These are, and perhaps financial too here, not just institution, because in defense can be either way. These are the factors that often determines the project outcome, and can be first to be tackled in a project, since they are not as dependent to the other factors, but really influential. So once you change this, it's not prone to sort of like slumping back down, and then can positively affect the other factors within the system. And then you have environment there. While it has some influence, but they are really also dependent on the other factors. If you go to the next slide, we have the visual overview from the cross impact matrix earlier. You can see the individual connection there. You have a strong connection in red and the weaker connection in green. While you can infer a lot of information from here, we need also to keep in mind like all these connections affect, you would have indirect effects. And to do that, to look into that, we need to find the strength of a loop, not just for every connection. So in that whole system, there are 25 loops that are present from that concept diagram or the causal loop diagram. And to obtain a loop strength, for example, just a sample calculation here, a loop of like a wash affecting social, affecting institution, and then back to wash, we can take the strength, disregarding the polarity. We can get a strength of each connection and divide it with the length of the loop, and then we would have a loop strength. And then once you have the strength, you can like sort to see which loops are the most impactful, which is driver in the system. And if you go to the next slide, this is just a sample of the top 2. I think they're actually in the top 5 or something of the whole system. So for example, here on the left, we have this is actually the strongest loop in the system, which is just a one factor, which is just wash and one other factor affecting each other. And in the session, you see like how the social behavior and the culture from the people affects the wash, and then the presence of wash within the community can also loop back to the social and keep improving the system. And the second example here, we have from wash to social, and instead of going back to wash, it indirectly goes to the institutional and then back to wash. Like for example, in sorry. So basically, like from social, we can see how that affects also like the water board in the institution, and how that affects the wash. However, how strong these are, if we see the total numbers of loops, if you go to the next slide, a one-factor loop. The next slide. A one-factor loop, which is like in the previous slide, is the example of the wash and social back to wash. Something like that is only like 1.5% of the total loops that is present in the system. And if you see like the 4 factors loop, so like something with a longer loop, to 4 or 5, they combine their they are more than 70% of the loops within the system. So what this tells us is that while individual connection can be strong and can be tackled individually, however, there are a lot of things at play at the back, like with all these indirect connections that actually affects the other factors, and in turn also affect the wash sustainable practice within an area. So we need to look into like this as a system that is and the individual connection are only a small portion of the system. So I think like the next one is my last slide. Yeah. So in summary, with regards to FIET factors in terms of affecting the WAS application in an area, while institution and also perhaps financial can be thought of as leverage points, all the factors in the FIET frameworks are influential, and their indirect interactions are crucial. And therefore, like a system instead of an individual intervention of strengthening approach might be more necessary for a successful WASH intervention. And I think that is all from me. And I'll give the floor back to Vidya.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I stop the screen sharing. Now I give, we still have some more minutes, I guess, 2 or 3 minutes to discuss some questions. I see in the chat box there is a question for Dana. Can you answer this question, please? It's from Rob Lewerit.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, USDP in our project in USDP, yeah, we also encourage the local government to find a balance between public fund investment with also public-private cooperation, because we know that government spending, government budget is also limited, and then we need to attract interest from other sector, especially from private. But based on our experience working in 62 local governments in Indonesia, they are more on the private sector, more interested in solid waste management. It's really, for example, especially for wastewater management, some public-private cooperations already exist, especially on the collection system. And that's also part of the program on how to combine potential from private cooperation with perhaps with the initiative from the local governments. And that will be also described in the national guideline that are being upscaled and replicated at the moment, that's part of the milestone that needs to be achieved by local governments. I think that's my answer for the public-private cooperation. And then
I hope that answered your question, Rolf. Is there any other questions? You can type your question in the chat box or just unmute yourself. Actually, I have one question. Yeah, as a moderator, am I allowed to ask question actually? I guess so. So I have a questions. I think it's either Daniel or Mr. Eddie can answer this question. So looking into the data, do you think that we can actually achieve the target of safely managed wastewater, safely managed sanitation or drinking water services by 2030? I saw the data by GMP is only about the basic and the improved sanitation and drinking water, but do you think it's possible for us to reach the safely managed level? Maybe Daniel or Eddie want to answer this question?
Vidya, can I say something, Mbak Wid?
Yes, of course.
Sorry, I'm while driving. But yeah, I'm using my headset. I think it is impossible if it is maybe in Bappenas we call it a business as usual. Yeah. So I think like Pak Danang said, maybe the involvement of public partner, yeah, maybe industry or even university. I think this is what we have done in ITS, yeah. So at the moment, it has already gave more than 100 toilets for the illegal housing. Because at the moment, if you are talking about housing, it is not easy to give government money to illegal housing. So if you are talking open defecation free, it will include all housing in the city or in kabupaten. So I mean, this is another thing that we haven't discussed in public yet. Mainly we are talking about, legal house, and in big cities, even like New York, we have some illegal housing, and in Indonesia they don't have a toilet yet. So at least I think we have to encourage other people also to involve. Otherwise, 2030 is impossible to have proper toilet, yeah, in Indonesia. Turn right.
right.
That's my answer, Mbak Widya.
Yes, thank you, Pak Edi. Be safe on the road.
Yes,
Maybe someone else want to add something more? Lisa?
Yeah, I would like to add that if we talk about safely managed drinking water, it means E. coli free.
Yeah.
In order to know if we can reach the SDGs by 2030, we need to have data. Yeah, so there's no baseline.
Yeah, that is very true. Maybe
that will be a challenge to know if we can reach it or not. I think we first need to establish a baseline, identify, make a very random analysis. What's the quality of the water that people have at their house? And then start monitoring that. But yeah, that's, I'm not sure if that will be feasible before 2030. But I think first more data is needed in order to report correctly on SDG 6. That's my perspective.
Yeah, I agree with that. There is a final questions. Do you still have time? There's a question from Jessica. As a student, what technology that is very important to build SDG 6? Maybe someone can answer this question. Daniel?
I think we have all the technologies. I think Pak Edi and Lisa already familiar with this kind of technology, but I think we have all the technologies. The technology is out there. But the thing is, how can we use that in the field? How can we make sure that people use it? So that's the critical point now. And I just want to add something to Lisa's comment. That I fully agree with Lisa that we don't have data of safely managed drinking water services, safely managed sanitation services. So, in my opinion, we are not on the track. So we cannot achieve the SDG 6.1 and 6.2 in 2013. It's not possible. I think we need the data and we need to calculate everything. And there are still a lot of progress that we need to do. And I think we are not on the track. That's my last statement, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. We are approaching the end of this session. Thank you for everyone that stay until the end of this session. If you have 1 more minute, I would like you to turn on your camera, please. We are going to take a virtual screenshot. Okay. Yes, 1, 2, 3, smile, look at the camera. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you learned a lot from this session and have a nice day. We will send you the link to the recording of this presentation. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Widya. Thank you, Daniel, for organizing.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.